What about public safety? We've heard a lot from the candidates about that, and of course, we have a former police chief who's running to be mayor, and he has his own brand of ideas about public safety. I think one of the interesting things about that subject is um, it gets conflated with policing a lot, right? Some people think that there is no difference between the issue of public safety and talking about the police department, how it's funded, how it's run, how it's managed. And I know that there is a big difference, and I think people who live in the city and deal with safety issues in neighborhoods understand that this is about more than policing. I'm wondering if any of you have heard anything during the campaign that says to you, "Hey, here's somebody who's going to do this in a different way that I like," or here's somebody who's going to build on the things that we're already doing and make them work even better. Who's heard something that caught their attention on this issue?
Yeah, I'm trying to give a cynical response to this. Yeah, I'll say there's two really popular policies that have been pretty consistent across candidates. One is preserving CVI, which of course makes sense. The other is community policing, which is a very, very broad term of what that may mean. And I do think it still limits the conversation to policing. What we haven't heard is, I think candidates really dig into, we've heard mental health come up, certainly in several forums, several debate, but we actually haven't heard, what does that look like for city government to really work with DWIN and think about what initiatives are needed for folks facing mental health challenges. I think, there have been candidates who've talked about youth engagement and youth programs. And I'd be really curious about the path towards that with, a lot of federal funding being pulled from those things. So I think that there's certainly some consistent things that they're saying across candidates. The challenge is in I think the consistent thing that we've been talking about on this call is just the details, what community partners need to be a part of that vision, and really what does the roadmap look like to building some of those initiatives to facilitate public safety. But yeah, I guess that's my honest answer without.
I mean, what's interesting is that for all of these subjects, there seems to be pretty strong agreement that we haven't heard enough, which is interesting given that they've been at this for 6 months and we only have about a week and a half before we're going to make a decision.
Can I?
All this stuff.
I think one of the things on the safety issue that I think is going to be really important for people to think about is safety. We have to think about safety just, as you said, more than just the policing, because safety is also a business and revitalization issue, right? A safe neighborhood. If you feel safe in your neighborhood, that's a neighborhood that you want to be in. If you don't feel safe, if those are the places where you're seeing people leave or businesses choosing not to go into that neighborhood, whether it's real or perceived based on the data. And there are so many good models for this across the country that have been able to combine high concentration of violent crime or broken window crime with other kinds of social and mental health practices. We've seen it in Chicago, Baltimore, Oakland, really, really good models that we could bring here and that we can activate as part and build off of what was already working. I do feel like this is something that we should keep pushing, right? Even though we only have a week to go, we do still need to really keep pushing on this.